I think the only car first-time drivers should buy is a Mk2 Aygo, and the first reason is it costs nothing to tax in the UK. If you pick up a Mk2 Aygo made between 2014 and 2017, as of right now you will pay zero tax. I've owned my Aygo for 2 years and enjoyed 2 whole years of zero tax. If you buy any other model outside of these years, you'll be paying £180 annually, but do keep up on tax rules because they do change. £180 a year is a huge saving and one that any first driver should have been missing out on. However, unfortunately, insurance isn't something that's as clear cut. I lived outside the UK for a long time, and when I came back, I decided a good first car would be an oldish 55 plate Audi A3. But man, was I wrong. Insurance for the year was £2,000 because I didn't have any driving history in the UK, but insurance also takes into account where you live, where your car is parked, etc. And frankly, it's a nightmare designed to confuse and frustrate people. However, Aygos typically sit in the lowest insurance groups at around group 2 to 3, but when I looked on Money Supermarket, it was saying my particular model was a group 7 car, which I don't think is very accurate. The Aygo X, which is Toyota's new Aygo offering, sits in brackets 5 to 7, so I don't think their old offerings will be in that bracket. So insurance should be cheaper. My insurance went from between £2,000 to £100 a year with the Audi I owned for 2 years down to £300 to £600 per year when I switched to the Aygo. Insurance has gone up recently, but that's only because the poor insurance companies aren't robbing us enough, so naturally prices have to go up. You could opt for a black box to make your insurance even cheaper, but they are about as divisive as Marmite. What isn't about Aygo ownership though is the reliability. My Audi regularly costs me £1,500 per year to maintain, with service and MOT costs on top of that. And you might think it's a little unfair to compare it to an Aygo that is 10 years younger, but many new drivers get this advice that they end up with an old, reliable car recommended by someone addicted to German cars. And while there is nothing wrong with that perspective, if you can afford it, this could potentially bankrupt you if you're a new driver, or at the very least make something like driving even more expensive than it currently is. I've had my Aygo for almost 15 months and nothing has gone wrong with it. The only thing I've had replaced on it are the spark plugs that cost a grand total of £89, and that is because I requested it. £89 for over a year of ownership is something I can live with. Compared to my old reliable Audi, I'm saving £1,411 per year on average. That's insane. Yes, the Aygo doesn't have the luxury of a German car, but it also doesn't have the copious amount of sensors on it that are going to break and destroy your bank balance either. Focusing back on reliability from a metric perspective, Toyota comes in second on Consumer Reports, and it's only second to its more premium brand Lexus, which in case you didn't know is also Toyota. So it's consistently been this way as well for quite some time. I mean, even if you were to think using your own anecdotal evidence, ask yourself this question: when was the last time you drove past someone on the hard shoulder or the side of the road having broken down in a Toyota of any kind? I know personally I'd struggle to count examples that would require the use of my second hand. These cars just work, and that's exactly what you want as a new driver, because cars are expensive enough to run anyway, and that's the next reason why a first-time driver will continue to save with an Aygo. As a new driver, you will 100% get battered by insurance companies, but running the Aygo daily will soften the blow slightly. I used to drive 40 miles per day to work and was always told a diesel is the best thing you can buy for fuel economy, except that it's not exactly true in my experience. While a diesel can be more economical, you need to remember that engine efficiency degrades over time, so that diesel might get you 50 miles per gallon now. It's not necessarily going to be the same 5 years down the line. My old Audi was a diesel and used to do 40 miles per gallon, so it would cost me about £60 per week to run. The Aygo does 50 miles per gallon easily and cost me half the price to run at £30 on average per week, covering the same mileage and driving in the same way. Yes, the Aygo is 10 years younger, but also as of right now, petrol is 10p per gallon cheaper. So you really are getting the best of both worlds with the Aygo. You get cheaper fuel with it being petrol, but you also benefit from how economical it is to run. And to preempt people sounding off that this isn't a fair comparison, as you can get a used German luxury car for cheaper, you're absolutely right, you can. My 55 plate Audi cost me £1,500 to buy, while my 65 plate Aygo I bought cost me £6,500. But you don't have to spend that much on one. And on a related note here, if you do buy an Aygo that isn't yet 10 years old, you'll get your warranty extended up until the car's 10th birthday, providing that you service the car at a Toyota dealership, with my last interim service costing £230, but they can be done cheaper if you aren't bothered about the warranty at other garages for between £150 to £230, so you do have options. If you're feeling brave, the Aygo is actually quite easy to work on, so you could even attempt to service the car yourself. Obviously, you don't have to spend £6,500 on one. I went for one with lower mileage, but you could easily spend half that and get a decent one. And it's worth saying that I wouldn't worry about mileage on any Aygo you buy. They are bulletproof, generally speaking. You could pick up an example like this with 75,000 miles on the clock for under £4,000 and could likely find them cheaper on places like eBay and Facebook Marketplace too. And if you find the Mk2 Aygo a bit too expensive, you could always have a look at the Mk1 Aygo, with the cheapest ones going for around £1,300, which is a steal, and they are equally reliable and offer all the benefits I've mentioned regarding ownership. It just doesn't look as modern as the Mk2. But if you're on a budget, it's a solid recommendation, and this recommendation also extends to Mk2 Citroen C1s, Peugeot 108s and their Mark 1 equivalents, as they are essentially all the same car underneath. And if you do end up picking up a 2014 variant of any of these cars, you'll be picking up a safe car with a 4-star Euro NCAP rating. But it's worth saying that these ratings are a product of their time, as the safety metric always changes, with more tech getting added to new cars like lane keep assist and collision warning systems. And speaking of safety, as a new driver, it's worth having as much tech as you can, as it does make a difference. And one thing that will certainly make your driving life easier when reversing is to have a reverse camera. The Aygo comes with one as standard on X-Plane models, which is one step up from the base model and also one of the more popular models, so you're more likely to bump into an Aygo that has a reverse camera than one that doesn't. The camera is clear and easy to use, even at night, and will make a huge quality of life difference to any new driver looking to make light work of reversing without worrying about bumping into other cars. But even if you were to gather the occasional scratch, you don't need to worry, because it's worth keeping in mind that because these cars are so popular and lots were bought and sold, you'll have plenty of stock to go at if you need to repair doors, bumpers, or anything with scratches on, because most first drivers and even many experienced ones end up dinging and scratching their car. So knowing that there are many spare parts for you to go at is reassuring. And even thinking beyond that, the Aygo is a wonderful car for tinkerers and people who want to upgrade their cars. I've added Apple CarPlay to mine and many more upgrades over the years. But before you really think about taking the plunge and going ahead and getting one, check out my 10,000 mile review of the Mk2 Aygo to see if it's right for you or not.